It is Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free, and you can take control of the airwaves here. You can bring up anything that happens to be on your mind, and the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to jump into any one of those at any time you like, and we will get you on the air with us in the studio. It's Ian.
And Mark.
So I came across a story, Mark, about checkpoints and a nasty little trick that apparently the Border Patrol is playing with people at checkpoints. And you and I know a thing or two about these checkpoints because you went through one of the internal ones at El Paso, I think it was, in Texas.
Yeah, near El Paso. And when you say internal, you mean this was a checkpoint, but it wasn't at the United States border. It was just a spot where they stop every car and say, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" And you could say, yes, I am. And
you'll be waved on through.
Right, you go right through. Or you can say, I don't know what they do there exactly, but I know they walked a dog around my car. They said the dog was sniffing for immigrants, which I'm not sure if immigrants would smell any different than, anybody else.
Other people.
Right, like there were people in the car. So immigrants are people, and what would that smell like? I don't have any idea. Just speculating here that really the dog, this is a drug checkpoint.
Yeah, well, they want the dog to light up on the car, and then they will take it apart, basically, looking for drugs.
That's what my theory is.
And they have they have ways of having the dog do these things.
My concern with checkpoints is that, and by the way, I refuse to give any documentation. I said, if they asked me, are you a U.S. citizen? I said, do I have any obligation to answer that question?
What was the response?
The poor guy, I mean, it's just some functionary, he's like, let me get my boss,
yeah.
So off he runs or whatever. And I said, do you have any reasonable articulable suspicion that I've committed any crime? He's like, no, sir. No, absolutely not. And I said, excellent. Am I being detained then? And he said, well, yes, just until we determine what your citizenship is. And I said, it's my understanding that under English common law, that 1,000 years of English common law says that if you don't have reasonable articulable suspicion, that you can't detain me. And he says, oh, yes, there's a Supreme Court ruling, Rodriguez versus da-da-da-da-da, and it said, such and such. And I said, well, that was the ruling that Rodriguez had not been unreasonably detained. However, I want to know what point unreasonable detention occurs. So I'm not going to tell you what my citizenship is.
That's up to the judge to decide, son.
No, that's fine. That's what I wanted. I absolutely wanted an opportunity to find out exactly how long they can detain you while not detaining you, like this new form of detention that doesn't include reasonable articulable suspicion, because I suspect that that's a bad ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States. And we've had them. I mean, that has occurred. So I just want to know. Is this whole concept of immigration law somehow thrown out the window? 1,000 years of English common law that you no longer need reasonable, articulable suspicion to detain somebody? And that's all I wanted to know. At some point or another, he's like, hey, look, you've got no accent. He had an accent. It was funny.
Yeah.
Look, you've got no accent, man. See you later.
He actually said that?
Well, something like that. It was to some effect. You can go find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's
on
our
channel.
Our channel.
YouTube.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, you can go hunt that down. It's the most viewed thing on our channel. So, yeah.
So that was at an internal checkpoint, and that's where they basically stop everybody and, hassle them, question them.
The thing that concerns me about these internal checkpoints is if you ask somebody, what would it take for you to say the United States is a police state?
That's a good question.
Likely they would say that it's if they were stopping me and asking for my papers. And what, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between a standing checkpoint on a United States interstate? This was I-10, not at the border. What is the difference between them stopping you and asking what your immigration status is, or saying, "What papers, please?" There are your papers. What's the difference besides some stupid Hollywood accent, right?
I can't imagine somebody could answer your question, but the number's 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733.
Well, the answer is just tell them you're an American citizen.
Well, it's all to keep out the evil immigrants, Mark. I mean, we need to protect the country from terrorists.
Well, anything is acceptable once the enemy is made dangerous enough, right? Once whomever the organization is, whatever the group of people is, has made whomever it is seem dangerous enough, it's fine, right? Like they made the people from the Middle East seem dangerous enough, and now we have to take our shoes off at the airport. Now we throw away all our water bottles. Now you can't have a bottle of shampoo in your carry-on luggage. I mean,
over 3 ounces, right?
Right. Well, yeah, an actual bottle of shampoo.
Right.
God help those ladies with the really long hair. What do?
Just have to go buy more when you get there.
Right.
Or bring multiples in your pack-away luggage or whatever.
And now, instead of just a quick check across the border, it used to take a few minutes to get across the border. Now you're waiting in this huge line to get across. And the inconvenience is going to pile up. More government jobs and more people checking more stuff.
Now, I don't know how long this has been going on. I'm not talking about the checkpoints, because that's been going on for quite a long time. But they're taking this to another level here, Mark. And what happened to Brian McCormick did not happen at a checkpoint. Okay, so according to CNN, he says he knew what to do when ICE officers pulled him over with paperwork in hand. Read the fine print. McCormick says he was driving 2 undocumented immigrants who had just had a court hearing in Hudson, New York, when officers stopped his car. They showed him a document through the driver's window, and you can see in the video that he's got his window cracked. So he has only, rolled his window down, I don't know, an inch or 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that clearly.
Look, I wouldn't do that particular trick, but that's fine. If somebody wants to do it, it's their car.
The ICE officers called it a warrant. They showed it to him through the window. McCormick told the officers something was missing, a judge's signature. Because, traditionally, that's what a warrant requires, right? Like the classic warrant is cops go to a judge, present some sort of evidence that, or at least claims that back up the thing that they want to get permission to seize, whether that thing be a pound of marijuana
right,
or...
the Constitution's pretty clear on this. Yeah.
Or a person.
Right.
Or an individual.
And it has to be particular.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be a warrant that says, I have a piece of paper from a judge that says we can look in every car that goes by.
Yeah.
That's not what, that's not constitutional.
In this case, it wasn't even from a judge.
This is a new species of warrant. And is this general or is it, particular?
It is, from what I can tell, it has nothing to do with an individual.
So
they don't post the actual
warrant unsigned by a judge. This is not a warrant. This is a piece of paper.
They're calling it a warrant, and they call it that multiple times and assert that it is a warrant. The video showing part of the March 5th verbal standoff was widely shared on social media recently, and advocates are pointing to the exchange as an example of how Know Your Rights lessons, which immigrant rights group have been teaching across the country, are working. The video, recorded by a passenger in a car's backseat, shows McCormick and the officers debating the document. McCormick tells the officer, quote, "Those are not warrants of arrest, sir." The officer replies, pointing at the title, "Yes, they are, sir. Warrant of arrest of alien." And McCormick comes back to say, yeah, warrant of arrest of alien, not signed by a judge. It's not a judicial warrant. I have no obligation to oblige by that warrant. And so then the officer asserts.
Oblige or abide?
Well,
it's people talking
I'm reading
live.
the text here, so we'll play the actual video coming up here in just a moment. But the officer says, "This is a lawful warrant." Signed by a judge, asks McCormick.
It's not a lawful warrant if it's not signed by a judge.
The officer stresses the warrant is valid under the Immigration and Nationality Act.
It would be valid if a judge signed it. It's not invalid in the sense that you must throw it away, but it's just paperwork up to this point.
All right, we got more coming up here. You can share your thoughts with us. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Mark, you'd asked the question earlier about, how would you know this is a police state? Is there really any significant difference between show us your papers and of what citizenship are you? More coming up. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll free Bring up what you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. We're talking about immigration. We started out kind of just recapping the situation with checkpoints, internal ones here in the United States, which are not uncommon, especially throughout the southern and even in the northern portions of the U.S. I think it's usually within 100 miles of the border, as I understand it. However, we've also heard of ICE agents or Border Patrol searching buses, for instance, coming up to Greyhound buses at bus stations and coming on there trying to intimidate their way into getting people to show their identification to them and possibly conduct illegal searches on folks. In fact, Greyhound even started recently, within the last several months, I think, putting up posters at their bus stations informing people of their rights. Because apparently the Border Patrol can board the bus, but as I understand it, and I'm not an attorney, you're not really obligated to answer any of their questions. They can come walk down the aisle and look intimidating and they can ask you questions, but you're not obligated to answer them. That's my understanding of that situation, because you're just a passenger on the bus. And they will try to intimidate their way into getting information out of you. In fact, that's what they're doing here in this video we are going to play, and then we're going to take your calls and thoughts. Our toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. But, Mark, tell me about stickers.
Yeah, Liberty stickers at libertystickers.com. Look, there are stickers that are for everybody at libertystickers.com. I'm looking right now under their title of police state, and they've got 3 great ones right here. A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. A nation cannot survive treason from within. A patriot must always be ready to defend his country against his government. LibertyStickers.com. They've got something witty, poignant, pithy, or downright bombastic for you. And people love to read those stickers on the back of your car. LibertyStickers.com.
All right, so we're getting to your calls, but I do want to get this video out so we have some idea of exactly what's going on here.
Mark, I'm going to put you on speaker. Those are not warrants of arrest, sir.
Yes, they are, sir. Warrant of arrest of alien.
Yeah, warrant of arrest of alien not signed by a judge. It's not a judicial warrant.
Now, just to be clear, this guy was pulled over in Hudson, New York. Okay, this is not a checkpoint. This is just a pullover.
There's no chance of this guy, the little chance of this guy being some kind of foreigner that they've found.
We go on.
I have no obligation to oblige by that warrant.
This is a lawful warrant.
Signed by a judge?
Of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and an official designated with that authority.
Are you hearing this, Mark?
Yeah, I'll tell him I'm on my way.
Our attorney's on his way.
Okay. What's that gonna...
That's not a warrant.
That is a warrant.
No, it's not. It's a Department of Homeland Security order.
It's a warrant.
Okay. No, it's not a warrant. It's not a warrant under the Constitution of the United States.
It's a warrant under the Immigration and Nationality Act of the United States.
Okay, that's fine, but it's not under the Constitution. You have no jurisdiction over me as a citizen. I'm the driver of this vehicle.
Okay, are you familiar with Title 8, Section 1324 of U.S. Code?
All right, so now the cop is going to play law games with him.
Oh, yeah, this is the way it always goes, sure.
And I just want to point out here, as a driver, and again, not an attorney, but so this isn't legal advice, but it's my understanding you are under no obligation to answer these people's questions. Okay, you can have a conversation with them, but look out, because the more you say to these people, the worse off you tend to be. Now, in this case, he makes it through the conversation fine, but there's no real reason to be answering these questions he's about to ask.
Right, so the amendment number 4 to the United States Constitution is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, meaning you got to present this probable cause to somebody. Yeah, present this probable cause to somebody. That means a judge, supported by oath or affirmation. To whom are you going to swear, if it's not to the court, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So, a piece of paper that says, I can look at any car that goes by, that isn't signed by a judge isn't a warrant. You could write warrant at the top, but that doesn't make it a warrant any more than me tattooing Thor on my shoulder makes me the Thunder God.
Or of U.S. code?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. In what regard?
I'm studying to be a Department of Justice accredited representative, so I've been through trainings.
Okay.
Which the average person isn't doing that. So this guy is more knowledgeable than your typical person who might get pulled over and intimidated by these cops. Again, there's no reason to answer these questions.
Okay.
And I have copies of actually in this box right here, I have a copy of a real warrant and a copy of that, just so people know not to listen to that.
Okay. Now that is pretty impressive.
It's
actually.
Indeed.
He's well aware that they are doing this, and he's fully prepared to call them on the carpet.
So you're aware of the statutes governing transporting and harboring illegal aliens in the United States?
I am.
Okay.
Okay. What was his point? The cop.
Why don't you just wait? I'll be there in a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's pretty much the end of the video there. And I don't know if there's a longer version of this, but this is the one that I was easily able to acquire. And this has been getting some press coverage, I think, as it deserves, because this guy is absolutely brave to go up against these intimidating people, because that's what they were suggesting there, right? Are you familiar with the statute about harboring?
Right.
They're suggesting that they might be wanting to charge him.
Well, why would you ask? Why would you stand in the way of a cop who wants to search your car for immigrants if you don't have immigrants in the car? Is the reasonable question that lots of people ask.
The answer is the principle of the matter: to refuse the encroachment of the state into our lives.
Well,
stop.
A reason that another person might say is because I believe I took an oath to the United States Constitution. Not to officious bureaucrats, but to the United States Constitution. I want to protect that document.
I'm going to get Dustin on the line here. He's in Farmington, New Mexico, listening to KENN. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good, you're on the air.
Hey, I just wanted to touch on the checkpoint you guys were talking about earlier in El Paso.
Please. Yeah.
I was just, with the cost of immigration annually, and with what these illegals are bringing over, drugs, smuggling people, this and that, I have no issue whatsoever with checkpoint wherever in the country they want to check.
How about right in front of your neighborhood? Every day you get to go through it on the way to work.
Doesn't bother me a bit.
Wow.
What if they want to come through your house and just see if there might be some immigrants there, like in the closet or something?
Come on in. I ain't got nothing to hide.
Right. So, there was a time in the United States history when people, some people disagreed with other people as to whether or not the United States should secede from Great Britain. They didn't like the idea that, people from a foreign land were importing their laws on them. Some people agreed and some people disagreed. And it looks like that's what we've got here. So you think that it's okay for people to look through my stuff. I think it's not. And I have the Constitution on my side.
He's got men with guns on his side.
Yeah. Oh, government loves to grow, and you're just a big government guy. That's all.
It sounds like it. Hey, Dustin, if you want to hang on, I want to bring. Oh, wait,
yes,
you said no? You said no to that? Hold on. I want to bring you back. Whoa. I want to give you plenty of time.
Republicans hate government until the bureaucrats have guns on their hips.
I want to give you plenty of time to explain, Dustin, how you can be against big government and in favor of checkpoints everywhere. That's what I really want to hear. So I hope you'll stick with us. This is Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com wants you to know about SaveItPurse.com. Since launching in 2014, over 200,000 users have saved an average of 15% for a combined $4 million using Bitcoin, or BTC. And now you can use Bitcoin Cash, BCH, to fund your account. You can save between 5 to 33% on things you're going to buy anyway when you shop using SaveItPurse.com. Add items to your cart, fund your account, select your discount, and save. SaveItPurse.com. SaveATPurse.com.
It's Free Talk Live, the live Saturday edition of the show. You can dial in toll free and bring up anything that you want. Our number here, 855-450-FREE. 855-450-3733. We're going back to your calls here. But also, I want to let you know how to accept Bitcoin at your point of sale. If you've got a retail establishment, mom and pop, brick and mortar business, and you want to accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like Dash or Bitcoin Cash or Zcash, and others, you can go to anypay.global and learn more about it. But actually, they've got a new website they launched. AnyPay is behind helpmetakebitcoin.com. It's super easy. They break it down to 4 steps, and you basically install your cryptocurrency wallet. If you already got one, you're already past that step. That's probably the most time-consuming part of this. You got to download the wallet from your app store and, put a passcode in, get it set up, do a backup. You want to make sure you back up your wallet. And then once that's all set up, you just create yourself an account over at helpmetakebitcoin.com, and then you put your cryptocurrency wallet addresses, which you'll get once you get your wallet, into the back end of AnyPay, and then you load up their app on your point-of-sale device. That's it. You're done. You're accepting cryptocurrency. It is that easy. Go to helpmetakebitcoin.com. It's a lot easier than you probably think it is. That's helpmetakebitcoin.com. As we go back to Dustin, he's in New Mexico listening to KENN. Dustin, you called in tonight because we've discussed immigration checkpoints and searches, and you are like totally obedient to the government. You are ready and raring to go. You're willing to let them search you anytime, come into your home, search your house. They will if they stop you every day on the way to work at a checkpoint. You're totally fine with that. And doesn't that kind of make you feel like a bootlicker?
Not at all. Let's get something clear. Now, if the cops come to my house and force their way into my house, there's going to be an issue.
But if they ask, then you'll let them right in.
I'm not okay with that. Huh?
But if they ask you, you'll just let them right in.
Correct, because I have nothing to hide.
Are you sure?
I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Really? Have you ever sped?
Yes, I have.
That would make you a lawbreaker, sir.
Well, as long as you pay the ticket, you're still obeying the law, right? So let me ask you this, though. Do you think...
Do the time, I say do the time.
Dustin, do you think that this country can survive the idea of people just being able to come into the cops being able to go into people's houses basically anytime they want? Do you think it can survive that? Do you think that would be good for the country? I don't think it could either.
No, I agree with you. I don't.
I think it would crumble. Because here's the reason, Dustin. Let me give you the reason that I think, and then I'll let you give your reason. Because politicians and judges, captains of industry, they could not handle the kind of scrutiny that cops just walking into people's houses would allow. Like, because our politicians and our judges are too corrupt. And once the executive branch then gets information on the legislative branch, and then you have this kind of collusion that leads to a massive state that just grinds the hoi polloi, you and me, the taxpayer, down into nothing. And we almost have that with the bureaucracy that we have attempting to stop immigration. I will agree with you 100%, Dustin, that it costs a lot of money to just allow immigrants to come into this country and use whatever government services that they can get their hands on. But I would posit to you and anybody listening that the problem is the government programs, not the immigration. That if we allowed immigration, just free immigration, people coming into this country as much as they wanted to, working as hard as they wanted to, but none of them were allowed to avail themselves of any government programs, that would benefit us as a nation. And that with the advent of socialism around the beginning of the 20th century, that it just made immigration impossible.
Dustin?
Yes, I agree. And that's the whole thing is how much all this immigration is costing, how many lives are killed per year by illegal immigrants, the drugs pouring over here. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
the drugs are pouring over because there's a war on drugs, so that puts money in the hands of cartels rather than in the hands of American business people who otherwise would be interested in supplying people's drug desires or their drug needs in the marketplace. So you're basically sending a bunch of money out of the United States to drug cartels by making drugs illegal. So if you were to end the war on drugs, that would certainly help in that instance, but obviously that doesn't alleviate whatever concerns you have about immigration. And it just saddens me that somebody who you described yourself before we went to the break there as somebody who was against big government. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How do you reconcile having that belief with the belief that it's okay for the government to put checkpoints everywhere?
Because the way I look at it is, if I'm not doing anything wrong, if I'm not carrying drugs in my car, I'm not harboring illegal immigrants, then what's there to worry about?
Okay, but you didn't answer my question.
I can tell you what there is to worry about, Dustin.
Yeah.
What about your medicine cabinet? Is it possible that you or somebody in your family, maybe not in your house, but maybe somebody in your family, has an expired prescription for oxycodone? I mean, that stuff was being given out all the time. There's medicine cabinets all over America with legal prescriptions that have gone out of date, which are now felonies.
Well, now, technically, Mark, they shouldn't be looking in your medicine cabinet unless it can hold a person if they're looking for immigrants.
Sorry, if you let them in to look, they're just going to look. They're going to find whatever gun isn't registered. They're going to, they're going to find whatever drugs are in the medicine cabinet.
And then they're going to have questions. Then they're going to have questions for you if they find things that are interesting. And that's kind of the fantasy, I think, that a lot of people have, Dustin, that they're law-abiding people, and that I would ask you, have you read all of the laws?
Well, obviously, I haven't read every single law in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But,
what percentage of the laws do you feel like you have read?
How many laws are there?
That's a darn good question.
More than you could read in 5 lifetimes. Right? Like they have more laws written than you and I could read. Well, not to combine, but you and I could read in 2.5 lifetimes.
What you mean when you say you're a law-abiding citizen, I think, is that you don't hurt people, right? Like you don't go out there and commit actual violent acts against other human beings, right?
I've never even been handcuffed in my life.
Great, that's great. So you don't believe that you are you don't believe that you are violating any laws, but you honestly don't really know. And in fact, there have been books that have been written out there.
3 felonies a day is one title. The fact is that you are a law-breaking citizen because there are too many laws for you to possibly abide by. And you probably break laws every single day without knowing what they are. I believe it's New Hampshire, but there's probably one similar in the United States. It's a misdemeanor to open up a milk container, crumple up something, and put it inside. In many places, it's against the law to operate your business on a Sunday. Now, they don't enforce these laws, but you're not a law-abiding citizen.
Right.
A law-abiding citizen doesn't exist.
Right, and I've heard of these goofy, stupid laws that they've got all over different states. Like the one you just mentioned. But
it's goofy until they decide to target you for them. I mean, we've seen people targeted where they do enforce some really dumb laws. Like, remember the story in Orlando, Mark, the folks that wanted a garden in their front lawn? No can do. You're going to get hit with $500 a day fines if you do something like that.
I think the ones that are scariest to me is when you try to live your life the way you want, and then they come take your kids from you because either you didn't vaccinate or you didn't send them to the right schools, or you let them walk home from the park, or a whole variety of things that they do. And really, the reason they do that is, Dustin, is because there's a lot of cops and they don't have a lot to do. And what I don't want is more border and customs guys doing out there to do more things. I want fewer of them. I want to pay less for them. And I think we can do that by simply making it illegal for immigrants and immigrant families to avail themselves of government programs. Maybe we have to get rid of all the welfare programs in the process. Maybe not.
Dustin, thank you for the call tonight. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Unfortunately, if you are somebody who's against big government, you can't possibly support having a massive immigration bureaucracy that keeps getting bigger.
They talk about what immigrants cost us. What's the immigration apparatus cost us?
Good question. There's more on the way here. This is Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live, and you are invited to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. We're talking about immigration, and specifically a nasty new trick, it appears, and maybe it's not that new. I'm not sure. It's the first time I've heard of it, and it's certainly getting some press coverage, so that's good. Because people need to know that ICE agents, or rather Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is saying, we got a warrant. We're going to need to search this here car. See? It's a warrant. Says right here.
It says warrant at the top.
Yeah, it says warrant of arrest of alien. Is there anyone's name on it? Not necessarily. Is it signed by a judge? Nope.
Not a warrant.
Not really a warrant, but that's what they're calling it. And are they obligated to do anything?
The United States Constitution is very clear that a warrant needs to be particular and not general. So that means no piece of paper that says I can look at every car that goes by.
I get to arrest every alien.
Right. And it needs to be signed by a judge. Otherwise, it's not a warrant.
So, as I understand it, if you
By the
are
way, a magistrate doesn't count either.
Right. And as I understand it, if you are a passenger in a car within the United States, not at the border, again, we're talking about, in this case that brought this up, some guys that got pulled over in Hudson, New York. That's not very near any, actual border with another country.
No.
It's not too far away from the Atlantic Ocean, but it's not, it's nowhere near Canada. And so they tried to intimidate their way into getting this guy to consent to a search, to consent to having his car searched by these ICE officers. And
it'd be a lot easier
himself.
if everybody would just go ahead and comply with searches.
Yeah, it'd be easier for the government.
Right.
Because
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because a lot of times if you comply with a search, you get a trashed car after the fact. They just leave everything strewn about on the street. Oh yeah, you get to put it back together.
If everybody complies with searches, you get a trashed country too.
Yeah, that's true.
The government will destroy you. The whole nature of the state is to grow.
Yes, and they grow into areas where wherever it is you're willing to obey, they'll do whatever.
And it is
they can get away with.
Incumbent upon you, if you want a free nation, to do what you can to retain it.
Yes. The toll-free number, if you want to join us here, is 855-450-FREE. Let's go back to your calls and thoughts. We have Mona on the line listening to WNIS in Virginia. Go ahead, Mona. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hi. How are you?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
Well, I understand where this previous gentleman's coming from, I think. I think it's the whole situation that's going on right now with the numbers that are coming across. And, of course, he was talking about the costs and so forth. The immigration problem has been going on for decades. And it's absolutely ridiculous that it's not been fixed.
What do you want to fix? How do you want to fix it?
Well, legal, exactly. Neither side wants to fix it.
What? No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you, Mona. Like, if you could wave a magic wand tomorrow or press a button, and then all of a sudden the system that would fix this, to whatever that means to you, the system that would fix this would be in place. What would it look like? What would you want to see change?
I would like to see legal immigration not cost so much and not take so long.
I agree with you.
I don't understand why it does.
I totally agree with you there. I think that people who want to come to this plot of land should be able to do so without begging a bunch of bureaucrats permission slips and having to pay tons in fees and attorney's fees and application fees and unending waiting. So I totally agree with you there. All right.
And I think if that was fixed, I think it would take some of the pressure off some of the other places because it wouldn't be so hard for people to get in. But if somebody's poor, why should they not be able to come if they have something to offer? Originally, the system was supposed to benefit our country. Well, we need people. We need all varieties of people. We don't just need college graduates. We need everybody.
Totally agree.
But we need to know who's here. We need to make sure we're not letting criminals in, obviously, to make our. We don't want to bring people in that are already criminals. And but
see, that's where I'm going to disagree with you, because I do agree that more people should be able to come here, that it should be easier than ever. But the more tracking we have, the more creepy that sounds to me. You're talking about knowing where everybody is, which sounds like a tracking system to me. That there's some sort of Orwellian police state in order to make sure that we know where everybody is. Who's going to track
them, and how are they going to track them? Is the question I have. I feel similarly to you, Mona. I really do. I mean, my belief system has evolved over time, and largely. You're where I came from, but I just don't trust the government to track and to decide who the criminals are and those sorts of things. I mean, at this point, illegal aliens can get across the border. Criminals are likely to be male and young. All right? Young males are the ones who are most likely to be able to sneak across the border. So who's going to stop them? At this point, do we? If you let more immigrants in to the country, then do we keep the same amount of Customs and Border Patrol people that we've got? And are they there just to catch the criminals that we won't let in? Are they going to be successful?
How about this? How about we just forget about the whole border bureaucracy and just let people come here, try to make a better life for themselves, and the criminals can be stopped when they try to commit crime by armed people who are willing to shoot a criminal who's committing a violent crime.
And we make it so that nobody who comes to this country gets it for free. Hold on. Let's talk about sovereignty for a second. What does that mean to you?
We need to have secure borders. I didn't say I wanted somebody to track people.
Was the United States, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mona, but was the United States a sovereign nation in 1800?
I can't tell you that.
Well, people could come into this.
At what point did it become? Hold on. At what point did it become sovereign?
Well, the first immigration laws, as I understand it, occurred because of the problems of people pouring in during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. Everybody thought it would be wonderful, and it got to be a real problem, and that's when the real official laws came into play.
The first ones were in 1870.
In the 1900s, obviously, they shut it down for, 40 years, I think? I forget how long it was, but a long time.
How did they shut down the border?
What?
How could they possibly have shut down the border?
I believe they shut down legal immigration for a long period of time.
Yeah, but they allowed migration. So migration was when people from northern Mexico could move in and do farm work in the United States and then go home. You can't do that anymore because there's too much of a border wall and all that stuff. You have to live on one side or the other.
We want them to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Well, can we come back to sovereignty? I want to know what point in the country's history
she said
did it become sovereign?
Well, also, how do you define sovereignty? Was there another sovereign nation? Because at this point, throughout history, immigration's a reality for most nations. The only nations that have really been able to stop immigration are places like North Korea.
Mm-hmm. No one wants to go there anyway.
Right. I mean, but I guess they're sovereign. Mona?
Right, but there's about 64 countries that are currently in the process or have already completed barriers on their borders because of the problems that they're having with migration.
So we should be more this country should be more like the unfree countries with border walls and restrictions and police state and that sort of thing.
This is a difficult subject.
At what point? I still want to know. I still want to get an answer to my question. At what point did the United States become a sovereign nation?
I already told you that.
Okay,
I don't
but
remember.
Here, let me give you a couple options. Was it at the signing of the Constitution?
One would think so, but there's been so many additions that I don't know.
Well, what additions? I mean, are you saying that the amendments to the Constitution somehow added sovereignty or removed it? I'm not sure what that has any relevance to.
I'm assuming that it probably happened when the Constitution came into play.
There was no border control whatsoever at that time.
No, there wasn't any border control really until the 1960s.
So the whole idea that you need to have a border for sovereignty seems pretty ridiculous. If you think
no, you don't need to have that. You need to be able to control and know what you have in your country. People just can't come in.
They didn't know that in the 1700s or the 1800s or most of the 1900s, as far as they didn't have any kind of lists of who was where in many places in this world. It's certainly in lots of places in the United States.
George Washington was elected by people.
Right, I don't know why things have gotten to the point that it is now, because it was sort of assumed for years and years, and people didn't go to other countries like they do now unless they were going to work or to settle. Now we have
people have migrated across entire continents over time.
I'm talking about like gang things. I'm talking about some of the bad things that are happening.
Gangs only exist because of the United States drug laws. End of story.
Pretty much, yeah.
The reason that the things have gotten the way they have gotten, Mona, is because whenever anybody comes up with a solution, it includes growing the government. If you put up a wall, you have to guard the wall. The wall is going to get torn down in a day if there aren't guards on it. Look at prisons, for goodness sake. So a wall just means a huge government apparatus to guard the wall.
855-450-FREE. Thank you for the call, Mona. More coming up.
You love Bitcoin. It's the future, right? Well, no, not if everyone stops using it. I mean, think about it. How many places in your town take Bitcoin? One? None? Let's be real. If this Bitcoin thing is ever going to happen, it's going to need your help. The good news is, the guys at AnyPay have your back. We built a website called helpmetakebitcoin.com. And it's a place you can send any business. And they'll be set up to take Bitcoin in 5 minutes. helpmetakebitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. We're launching into the second hour of this program, the live Saturday edition. With you here tonight, it's Ian.
And Mark.
Don't forget, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. We have a lot of features, and they are free. Unlike a lot of those other talk show hosts in the business who want to charge you, $7-8 a month, we do all that stuff that they do for free. So check it out at freetalklive.com. Podcast, live streams, video streams. It's all there. Ian and Mark, continuing with more of your calls and thoughts. If you're just tuning in, we've been talking about the immigration situation, specifically on the enforcement side, where there are now apparently ICE officers who are just pulling people over. Now, in the particular case at hand here in Hudson, New York, Brian McCormick had just left a court hearing, and he was driving 2 undocumented immigrants in his car. So obviously, if those immigrants had just had a court hearing, they must not have had any reason to, take them into custody in the court, right? Because
why wouldn't they do it there?
If you're in court, there's a bunch of men with guns around who can pretty much control your every move. So, I mean, why would they let them walk away? Either way, that's when they got pulled over, was when they were leaving this court hearing. So the agents were waiting. This, this wasn't like a random pullover. It doesn't seem like. But apparently this technique that they're using is also not unfamiliar to those in the immigrant rights community. According to the immigration, it's ILRC.org, which is the Immigrant Legal Resource Center.
Well, predators hang out at watering holes because they know that's where the prey comes, right? That's what's happening.
Yeah, that's where I was able to find this document, the so-called Warrant for Arrest of Alien, because I want to know, what does this thing actually say? Turns out it doesn't have a judge's signature area on it at all. There isn't even a spot for it to be signed by a judge. The signature is for a, quote, authorized immigration official or officer. That's who signs these things. Someone in the same bureaucracy. So it is not a... look, we all know the whole checks and balance thing is pretty much BS when it comes to the government. I mean, they're all kind of ultimately on the same team. But this doesn't even have the hint, the whiff of a check or a balance on it. There's no judge's signature even anywhere on this. It couldn't be there because it's not a real warrant.
Right, it's not. It's unconstitutional.
That's what they say. They keep insisting that it's a warrant in the video with this guy. And for a lot of people, that's going to be all it takes. My God, that's a warrant? All right, well, I guess I'll just hand myself over. Because that's what they want, right? They wanted to capture the people who were in the backseat of the car. And
if they've got to lie and violate the Constitution to do it, it's really important that they get their job done.
So we continue. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Some people are welcoming police state. They welcome checkpoints. They want one guy who called in the first hour said he'd be fine with the cops coming through his house. Hey, you want to check my closet? No problem. Search through everything. That's what freedom's about, right?
No.
Let's go to your calls. Your thoughts. Sean is in Indianapolis listening to WIBC. He says he's a police officer. Sean, welcome to Free Talk Live.
Hello.
Hey, you're on the air.
Okay.
I
just had a kind of an issue.
Sure.
I listen to you guys' show all the time. I really like it. I love the content. I love the different perspectives, of different views that people give and stuff. I just have one issue. Right. I'm a police officer myself. I may not have the traditional views as most police officers. I try to be open-minded about certain things.
Okay.
Try not to, be what most people think police are. The issue that I had was that I know you guys are more or less generally speaking about the ICE agents and Border Patrol and stuff like that. But
I'm happy to talk about the police state in general. Please, by all means, what do you share? What you got?
Well, the thing that struck a chord with me was whenever you said, "I want I want to have less of them. I want to pay them less and things of that nature.
Oh, I don't know that I said pay them less, but I want to have fewer costs. So would you agree that half of your police force, some large percentage of your police force is probably unnecessary and unqualified?
No.
Oh, well, I can tell you a lot of cops have told me that.
Okay.
Right? Like, the fact is, in this country, do you think we have too many laws, the right amount of laws, or not enough laws?
I don't think anybody has a good answer for that. Because
I got one. We have way too many laws.
Even give you an answer about how many laws there even are.
Well,
that would suggest that there's too many.
More laws than you could read in 4 lifetimes.
I understand that.
That's too many. That's an answer to your question. It's too many. If you can't read the laws, if you don't know the laws and you're attempting to enforce the laws, that's too many.
Okay.
It's unreasonable to expect a human being who cannot read them in his lifetime to enforce them. Okay. That's outrageous.
Okay. This is my other issue. Somebody calls and they have a slightly different perspective than you guys, and you guys automatically turn into the wolves attacking the prey. It's like, just chill out and let somebody have their thought, have their their own opinion. You don't have to jump down their throat.
I forget the gentleman's name, Dustin, I think it was.
Yeah.
We kept him on for more than an entire segment with us.
This is one of the problems that I have.
Know.
Officer, I can't remember your name. What was it?
Sean.
Sean, sorry. Sean,
go ahead.
The difficulty I have here is that in some cases I think people are wrong. And I can either...
Well, I think you guys are wrong, but you guys won't even give me the opportunity to speak my piece.
Sure, you're still here.
You're right here. You're talking right now.
Well, you guys keep talking over me, though. That's my issue.
Well, you just made an accusation, and I'm answering the accusation. You said...
You also said that there's the problem with police is there's so many of them, and they have so little to do. That's kind of bogus. I mean, that's a bad...
Well, Mark, not everybody lives out in the middle of BF nowhere, New Hampshire. There's plenty of things for, I'm sure, police to do in an urban area like, Indianapolis, where our officer is calling from. So I'll agree with you, Sean. There's certainly plenty of things happening out there to keep police busy. I think what we'd like to see is them busying themselves with investigating real crimes with a victim. Instead of somebody smoking some marijuana or selling some drugs or whatever. How about going after murderers and rapists and focusing efforts on that kind of thing?
Selling drugs is not a big enough issue to investigate?
No, that's just a business. That's just somebody who's trying to help his customers.
Okay.
Well, have you ever been to CVS? They sell drugs.
If somebody sold one of your children like meth or heroin or something like that, you would have an issue with it.
Well, my son's 11.
Selling his product.
If somebody successfully sells my 11-year-old, meth, then I suppose that's my parenting problem.
Yeah, I would want to know where I went wrong with my son.
That would be the first question I would have. You see, I'm unlike most people. I'm not going to say, why didn't the government protect my family from this thing? What I'm going to say is how am I responsible and what can I do to prevent something like this from happening in the future? But I would ask you this, Sean. Really, I'm sitting here with an article that says right now, in front of me, that says that alcohol is the most damaging drug in America. Why do we have that one legal and we make things like marijuana illegal in Indiana, for instance?
I mean, there is no good answer. There's no one specifically less lethal drug than another.
Actually, yes, there are.
Yeah, nobody's ever died from an overdose of marijuana. People have absolutely died from overdoses.
No, they haven't. Cite your source.
Okay.
Where did somebody die from marijuana? I want to know. I want to know.
This is my issue. I have my own opinion about something, and you voice it, and then immediately.
Well, no, that's not an opinion. You're claiming.
You're not even letting me complete a thought.
We've certainly done that, but go ahead.
Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, I listen to your guys' show. I like it. The only issue I have was whenever somebody has a difference of opinion, it's automatically put the wall up, let's be defensive, and let's, hammer in our feelings out. Made what claim?
You made the claim that somebody had died from marijuana, and I would like to know who and where.
There's been several cases where people have died in car accidents when they were high on marijuana.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, I did see an overdose, but I get where you're coming from. Far more people die, as I'm sure you know as a police officer, far more people die in automobile accidents relating to alcohol than they do to marijuana. Sean,
Okay.
I have a very important question I'd like to ask you, if you'll hold through here.
If you got time, I don't know if you're on duty or whatever, but stand by if you can.
Please,
If not, that's fine. You can call any night, and if you feel like we're not giving you a fair shake, I respectfully disagree because we're willing to hold you over. More coming up here with Sean. Maybe 855-450-FREE is our number, and you can join us. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Open phones, as always. You can bring up whatever you want, though we have been talking about immigration, which kind of led to a conversation generally about the police state and the growing invasion of government agents and agencies and bureaucrats and officers into our everyday lives in a way that, hasn't happened in the past. Now there are internal checkpoints. Now they apparently are pulling people over and presenting them with fake warrants, calling a document a warrant, but there's no judge's signature on it in order to intimidate people into giving up their rights, because everyone has rights, whether they were born within the political jurisdiction of the United States or anywhere else in the world. And the U.S. government is supposed to, and its state governments, and thus state governments are supposed to recognize human rights. And so we continue with the discussion. We actually have Sean still on the line with us. He's in Indianapolis listening to WIBC FM. He's a police officer, and we ended up getting into the war on drugs, for instance. And just to clarify, Mark, you had said that there had never been an overdose from cannabis. And Sean,
an overdose death. There's been lots of overdoses. Who can define what an overdose is?
Okay. Well, yeah, whatever that means. You might go to sleep or something like that. But nobody has ever died from overdosing on cannabis, whereas people have consistently died from overdosing.
And Sean accurately
on alcohol.
said that some people have gotten into automobile accidents because they were too stoned.
Sure, and so people got into automobile accidents because they were too tired. Should we also ban people from not getting 8 hours sleep at nighttime? And either way, Sean, you're back.
I have a question.
You had a question.
I have
okay,
a question
sure.
for Sean. So, Sean, the story we're reading here is some law enforcement agents have been given a document that has been called by their supervisors a warrant. And it is not signed by a judge, and it is not particular as prescribed by the Constitution. My question to you is, A, would you and your coworkers know that this wasn't a warrant? And B, would you attempt to use this document as a warrant if you were given such a document and given orders to just sort of search some cars?
I mean, it falls into one of those issues where there is no really any short answer to it. It's like whenever something happens halfway across the country and somebody walks up to you and is like, well, hey, what's your thoughts about this? Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know. Each state has their own certain bylaws that they go by that other states don't. I mean, I don't feel comfortable saying what I would or wouldn't do because I'm not there. I'm not in their situation. I don't know. This is the first I've even heard about it.
It's a common political.
What I would or wouldn't do.
Yeah, I appreciate where you're coming from there, Sean, but it's really what that answer is a common political dodge. I hear it from politicians all the time who, when presented with facts of whatever the situation is, will then say, well, I don't really know what all the facts are, so I can't really comment on that. Now, again, it's not unfair to make that statement because you may not be being given all of the facts, and we don't certainly know how often these documents are being used or whatever, but we know they are being used. There's evidence that they're being used.
I personally have never seen one, so that's why I'm saying
I've got one right in front of me.
I didn't even know they. Yeah, no, I know. I'm not saying that you don't. Yeah. I'm just saying I didn't even know they existed.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Because you don't know all the laws.
So here's my fear, Sean. I'm sorry to interrupt. Here's my fear. My fear is that we have had 240 years of people who are getting paid by the government who sign and take oaths to the United States Constitution, who will always fudge a little bit. And as you fudge a little bit over time, and I'm not blaming this on you, Sean. I'm simply saying that human beings are bad at staying within the prescriptions of rules, and that the Constitution is the highest law in the land, and that it's not being abided by, right? Like it's the reason I am jaded about this whole thing. The reason I use terms like police state is because I don't think that I don't think a government can last 240 years and without some kind of revolution. And I think the United States was pretty unique in very few countries have had revolutions in order to have, Enlightenment era revolutions, to have self-rule, a republic, these kind of things that I value. I just don't think it can last, man. I think that it was too poorly written. The government's going to grow beyond its bounds, and we're on the last stages of empire. That's all.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else we do. I don't know how to get this back. And
get what back?
To get back a smaller, more contained government, the sort of, the government valued by Republicans whom I talk to, who then come up with big government solutions to stop what they do. Every time you hear me on the air come up with a solution, that solution is going to be small government. It doesn't threaten anybody. But when somebody comes on the air, and this is, Sean, I think why you perceive us jumping on people, and maybe it's true, I don't know, is because when somebody makes a big government prescription solution, they are suggesting that somebody stick a gun in my face and force me to act a certain way. When I make a small government solution, I'm just saying do what you want as long as you don't hurt other people. So, ultimately, whatever the law is, that guy that was selling Lucy's in New York that got strangled for what is effectively small-level tax evasion. He was killed. And it's because whenever something's made against the law,
strangled
Sean,
by a cop.
Right. Well, he happened to be killed by police officers in this case who were trying to enforce the law as they understood it. But whenever you make something illegal, it is ultimately enforced by the death penalty. Because if you don't want to obey that law, whatever it is, if I don't want to obey the speeding law, Sean, you're going to have to call your buddies, and they're going to put up a roadblock. Maybe they'll shoot out my tires. Maybe they'll cause me to go into a ditch. If I say I don't want you people giving me pieces of paper, you probably throw me in jail. I don't want to go to jail with you. I'm going to pull up my weapon. You're going to shoot and kill me. Of course. Because that's what law is. Law is a death penalty if you don't want to obey, right?
It's an opinion backed by a gun.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
What else is it, Sean?
It's true. It's a true statement.
You'd have to, right? In that circumstance. If I don't want to obey your orders, you got to kill me, right?
That is a very broad statement. That
he's going to try not to, Mark. He's going to try to take you into custody.
I know he doesn't want to kill me.
That's like saying if I pull you over and you perform the sovereign citizen spiel and whatever, I'm just automatically going to openly shoot you through.
I'm no sovereign citizen, by the way.
Happen.
I don't believe in sovereign citizens.
I didn't say you were. I'm just giving an extreme example like you just did. Like if you don't obey the law, you're going to die. No, it doesn't happen. That's what everybody. A lot of people have a false. I don't know what you'd say. They automatically think that we're going to pull out our gun and shoot you just because you don't.
No, it's not automatic. In most cases, in some cases it has been, but in most cases it's an escalating process. And Mark was kind of trying to explain that. First he doesn't pull over, then he goes for a weapon because he doesn't want to go with you.
First
he doesn't want to go with you.
First I don't pull over, and then I don't comply with your wishes to take me in. And then when you try to take me in by force, which is what you have to do, right? Like you are given a badge, and that badge represents the violence that I'm allowed to use to protect myself. I, as a citizen, give that over to you. We collectively give you that badge and say you are allowed to use violence on our behalf. And that's a reality. And ultimately, you've got to, because you've been given all these rules, many of which you can't hope to have read.
Sean, I want to invite you to call in any old time you want.
Yeah, please do.
Always happy to hear law enforcement officer perspective on these things. I appreciate your time tonight. I want to make sure we get some other folks on here as well. Thank you, Sean, in Indianapolis. We're coming up 855 450 free. If you want to join us here, this is the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live.
Did you know you can legally exit the U.S. federal income tax system? Well, it's true, and thousands of American nationals are doing it. The 16th Amendment and the Internal Revenue Code are legal, but only in a limited jurisdiction. This is the basis behind the voluntary nature of the income tax. Learn the exit strategy provided by Congress. Find out more by visiting weissparis.com and watch our numerous videos. That's WEISS Paris.com.
Free Talk Live. Dial in toll free if you want to join us here. Phone lines are loaded up, but our Discord on-air call-in lines are wide open for you. If you want to sound like you're sitting here in the studio, just hop on over at discord.lrn.fm. You can join us. With you tonight, by the way, it's Ian.
And Mark.
And also want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com, your premier source for everything Bitcoin-related. You're brand new to Bitcoin? Well, you're not too late. It's only been a decade since Bitcoin came out. And in the scale of money on the the timeline of what has represented money and over hundreds of years, 10 years is nothing. So we're still, in my opinion, at the very beginning of this cryptocurrency journey.
I think we're at the beginning of the cryptocurrency journey. I agree with you. I also think we're at the beginning of a run on Bitcoin as far as value goes.
I hope you're right. But, we don't know what tomorrow or the next minute holds as far as the price of Bitcoin. Go to Bitcoin.com. You can learn the basics there. They'll help you choose a Bitcoin wallet, buy Bitcoin, and show you where you can spend your Bitcoin. And you can read the latest news headlines from their news site and also engage with the community on the Bitcoin forum. Go to Bitcoin.com as we go back to your calls and thoughts. Let's talk first to Steve in Virginia, listening to WNIS. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Hi, you're on the air.
Yes. I have a real problem with illegal immigration. First being is this. Back during the 1800s and 1700s and 1600s, there was no money waiting for them on the other side of the line. There was no freebies. There was no dental. There was no housing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no food. And there was no hospital waiting for them. Now we got everything waiting for them, plus the ACLU. Now, I really don't want them here, to tell you the truth. I think we got enough people. We don't need no more.
Is it worth violating the Constitution to get rid of them?
I'm not invading their territory. Hold on a minute. I'm not invading their territory. Don't invade my territory.
You don't have any
back
territory.
To where you came from.
Just so you're clear.
That's what we need to have.
You've got no territory. You're a serf.
Go wherever you came from.
All right, I got you. Is it worth violating the Constitution?
Right. Go back. Go back.
I'm from Florida.
Go back.
I'd love to go back to Florida. You go down there and get all the Yankees out for me.
Go back. I got 2 words for them. Go back.
This is an intelligent conversation.
I hear you, buddy. Listen to me.
Go back.
Can you answer a question? Get rid of him.
We don't want you here. We don't want to have.
I want them here. I want them all to come here, and I want them to go to your house.
What was the question you were going to ask him? I just put him on hold.
Is it worth violating the Constitution to get rid of these immigrants that he's so upset about?
Steve, were you able to hear the question?
My answer is go back. We don't want.
Okay, you can't have a conversation. I figured I'd try one more time just to see if we could get a responsive answer from this person. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. These people don't care.
Steve represents an opinion that is of value, right? Like, it's absolutely true that Americans are going to be short-tempered when people come across the border and avail themselves of freebies that are in this country.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with him 100% on that.
You mean the same government freebies that was created by the very same government that you're asking to supposedly solve this problem?
Well, that's the dichotomous position that people like Steve are in. They want smaller government in general.
He didn't say that,
but generally they want smaller government. People of this opinion want smaller government. However, they know that it's easier to grow the government than it is to shrink it. It's a lot harder to shrink the government than it is to get it to grow because
it grows naturally.
People in the government want it to grow. And so what are the people that want smaller government going to do? They're going to advocate for more border patrol, walls, whatever it takes to stop immigrants from coming. Now, I'd like to say regarding immigrants going home, I've got right in front of me a graph chart of illegal immigration into this country, and it has been dropping since 2010. It has dropped precipitously.
I wonder why. They don't want to live in a police state?
I don't know. Why? I have no answers as to why. It doesn't. They didn't poll the illegal immigrants. They're hard to ask questions of, and the answer is there's less illegal immigration than there was before. It's probably not because people like Steve have gotten on the radio and said "go home" over and over, and made some immigrant feel bad, and they left. What's probably the truth is it's more and more difficult to get a job. That'd be my guess.
Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. We have Eddie listening in Virginia, also to WNIS in Virginia Beach. Go ahead, Eddie.
Hey, guys. Just to comment on what the other fellow said about the Constitution. I think them dudes did very good a couple hundred years ago. They had no idea what will be happening now.
Mm-hmm.
But our Constitution ain't no good if there's no one willing to enforce it.
That's the truth.
What do you mean?
And that's
what
we
do you
got
mean?
now. I mean, there's none of the higher officials from the FBI, whoever, no one will enforce it.
You mean they won't enforce it? Just to be clear, you mean they won't enforce it on themselves? You mean the government officials will not enforce the Constitution on themselves? Okay. Just want to make sure it was clear.
Well, I mean, the FBI
There's
isn't...
no more branches of government that checks and balances. They all are in coercion with each other.
Cahoots, yeah.
And that's what's going to break our country down.
Well,
I mean...
You mentioned the FBI,
saying?
and the FBI is not even mentioned in the Constitution, and the Constitution's very clear in the 10th Amendment that anything not specifically mentioned in the Constitution is delegated to the states and the people respectively. So really, the United States government should only be doing defense, coining money, post roads, and very little else. I don't even know what a post road is. I don't know that I've ever seen a post road, or maybe every road's a post road. I don't know. But that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be putting together the FDA, the EPA, the FBI, or whatever. If those programs are a good idea, they should pass an amendment that says that they can. But the problem is that federal judges will say that the federal government can grow itself. And then what do you do?
And, well, just like the borders, man, that they won't even enforce the laws about illegals coming inside the country.
The United States Constitution, sorry to tell you, says that it's in charge of naturalization, that immigration was actually given to the states and always had been up until the 1870s.
So do you think anybody can just come in at will?
I'm just telling you what the document says.
And that's that.
I'm just telling you what the document says.
They should be able to, yeah, as long as there's a place willing to host them, as long as there's a person willing to rent to them or share a space with them or, employ them or whatever, as long as there's people willing to welcome them. And, Mark, you said you're welcoming towards folks like this.
I'd love to have somebody come to my house and do a little work.
Yeah, aren't you trying to fill in a basement or something like that?
Some things that need to be done.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, but not everybody coming through the borders have good intent.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think everyone in the government has good intent?
Didn't say they did.
Right.
If they did, we wouldn't have the crap going on we have
Well,
now.
then, okay, I can tell you this. I know for a fact that the people in the government have malintent. I know they are not there to help me, and they're not there to be my friend.
So
they're there to hurt.
What are we going to do about it?
I want to ignore them. I want them to go away.
What?
Secession.
What are we going to do about it?
Secession now. How about that?
Stop paying them.
No, seriously. Instead of just saying this now, what are we going to do about it?
Stop paying the gang. How about that?
I'm looking to build a libertarian paradise outside of the United States because I don't think that I think this country's.
How about just limiting, what do they call that, term limits? That would have a lot of help.
I'm for it. I'm fine with term limits. Bring it.
Oh, there's so many people who have the idea that just this one tweak. If we can just take this one thing.
Oh, I've got a tweak for you. Here's your tweak. Your tweak is that 100% of legislators need to vote a law in, and 50% can vote it out.
That's great. Unfortunately, that requires the legislators to implement.
Oh yeah, that's never going to happen.
What about 16? What about 16 Supreme Court justices that the Democrats want to put in?
Yeah, that absolutely should be a United States constitutional amendment that we get a secure number of justices. I can't believe that this country has existed for 240 years and there isn't a set number of justices. It's outrageous.
Eddie, thank you for the call. I appreciate the discussion. The toll-free number. Nice to talk to somebody who doesn't say the same two words over and over again. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Phones are open as always. You don't have to talk about immigration. You can bring up what you want. And you can take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live. 855-450-3733. Or jump on our Discord call-in lines at discord.lrn.fm. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Dial in. Toll-free number here for you if you want to join us on this live Saturday edition. It's Ian here, by the way.
And Mark.
The number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. You can jump in that way as well. In fact, we've got somebody waiting there. We'll get to that here shortly. We've been talking about immigration and the government's crackdown on it, leading to a massive, ever-expanding police state. Of course, it wasn't just immigration that led to that. It was also the war on drugs, which led to a large expansion of the police state. So when you combine the prohibition on drugs with the prohibition on people, you get yourself quite a nasty, invasive system that wants to know everything about you and your life and where you live and where you're going and what you're buying, what you're doing, and pretty much anything they can learn about you. They want to have it in a database. And if that makes you feel secure, if that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, if you love it when you go through the TSA checkpoints, you're part of the problem. People like you are making this country a less free place because you cheer on the intrusions into people's freedom. You cheer it on. Yeah, go police. Keep violating those rights. We need to make sure we're safe from people who we don't know. So we're going to hire a bunch of people we don't know, because most people don't know the cops in their city, right? I mean, you might know one or two or something like that, unless you're like in a cop family or something. Yeah, these are strangers. You don't know if they're trustworthy. In fact, many of them have proven themselves to be quite untrustworthy. There's no shortage of police corruption stories out there. Heck, we've seen police chiefs being involved in things like, and sheriffs being involved in things like dealing drugs, going after competing drug dealers from their own drug dealers, protecting theirs, basically. We've seen police officers, we've seen chiefs of police doing untoward things with teenage girls. We've seen in this area, in Keene, New Hampshire, the southwestern area of New Hampshire, there was a cop who was raping children. A police chief who was doing that. And we're supposed to believe that these are the people that our children are safe with. Oh, yes, Officer Friendly right over there. He'll help you.
I don't think it's any more fair to point out the stories of police officers doing illegal acts.
Yeah, it is, because they have the right to use violence against people.
Than it is to point out the stories of illegal immigrants doing violence. I mean, I think it's a cheap shot that every talk show host out there in America does whenever they get an opportunity. Oh, look at the illegals. They raped a woman in Los Angeles. Well, of course, somebody.
Yeah, but you can defend yourself against a rapist with a gun. You can use a weapon against a common criminal, whether it be a rapist or, a potential murderer or somebody that wants to rob you in a parking lot. You have the right to defend yourself in that case. Boom. End his life. If they're threatening yours, that person is not going to threaten another person ever again. It's over. If you use violence against the police, especially and including the corrupt ones, when they come after you, boy, good luck.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky to see the light of day.
Your story, that much is for sure.
You'll be lucky to breathe after some amount of time, after they've turned the entire squad against you to make sure that you end up dead or in a prison cell for many, many years. So we continue with your calls and thoughts. You can bring up whatever you want. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. What's the answer? I mean, you guys love to complain on Free Talk Live. The answer is, how about we not have, first of all, the war on drugs. Let's end that. Let's end all victimless crimes. So stop enforcing laws against gambling, laws against prostitution, anything as far as business regulations. Okay? We can stop enforcing a lot of the BS traffic stuff, because most of that is BS, and you know it, because most people violate.
It's revenue generation.
Right. Again, I want the police, if we're going to have them, to go after violent people who are actually causing a danger, or reckless drivers who clearly need to be taken off the road. That's what they ought to be doing. But in a lot of cases, that's not what they're doing at all. They're spending time going after marijuana users or drug users or prostitutes or whatever, where there's no victim. And if there's, in my opinion, there's no victim, there's no crime. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. So that's some of the ways we could change.
Most people in prison are in prison for victimless crimes.
That's some of the ways we could change the status quo, where we still have this monopoly on coercion that is the government. That we could make it less awful, but it would still be a monopoly. And monopolies aren't known for giving the best service. They're not known for being too concerned with how you feel about their service that they've given you.
Nor are they, nor can you expect low prices from monopolies.
Correct. And in this case, this monopoly isn't even obligated to serve you. The Supreme Court has ruled over and over again they have no obligation to protect you. They don't have to show up. If they show up, they don't have to do anything. And if they get it wrong, if they try to do something and they get it wrong, they're not liable for it. So, like,
right, if you hired a security company and they didn't provide security services for you, you could sue them and get your money back. That's not going to happen with the government.
Let's go to Ron. He's in Indiana, listening to WIBC in the Indianapolis area. Hello, Ron.
How you doing tonight?
Welcome. You're on the air.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Tell me what.
The first thing I'm going to tell you is this. Most police officers do not do what you're saying. And most police officers, when they approach your car, they're very, very, up forward with you and try to be nice to you.
No, they're not being nice.
They don't get bad to you unless you start something yourself.
I'm sure that's true. I'm absolutely sure that's true.
I disagree that it's nice to pull somebody over in the first
Ian
place.
would say that it's not nice to pull somebody over, but ultimately, a police officer's generally not going to give you, or sheriff or whatever, sheriff's deputy, whatever, isn't going to give you any trouble if they pull you over. But that's not really what we were talking about here.
Well, the thing about it is you're saying, too, they shouldn't arrest prostitution.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep. I'll say that.
No. They do arrest prostitution because a lot of them women out there are carrying diseases that if a guy gets them and they pass them on to somebody else, it just keeps on going.
Right. So in Nevada, prostitution's legal.
They do it in Arizona. If you go to Arizona, you go to Arizona and everything. If you're going to be a prostitute there, you got to sign up.
Nevada.
You got to go to the doctor every 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
Okay.
Why is that, huh? Why is it different in Nevada? Why is it different in Nevada?
Because it's legal.
I was trying to get him to say it.
I know. He knows.
It's only legal outside of Las Vegas.
Well, yeah,
it's a stupid exemption.
It's a county can either have prostitution or gambling. I don't believe they can have both in the state of Nevada. Is what their rule is.
Stupid rule.
It's a dumb rule. I mean, why wouldn't what's the difference between gambling and prostitution? What would happen if a county in Nevada had both of those?
My God, Mark, we'd have them under the same roof.
It'd be anarchy.
Well,
and
look
then
how much money you'd make if they did while the rules go by. Okay.
What? How much money? Who would make?
All the money you would make on the rules if they would go by the rules. And
who's making the money? I'm sorry, I'm not clear. All the money who would make?
The state, and they could do more for the cities.
Are you arguing for or against legalizing prostitution?
We need our streets fixed right now. We haven't had our streets fixed properly.
I agree with you. They should stop arresting the poor people that are trying to go out and fix the streets. How about that? Have you ever seen the stories about the individuals who get tired of all the damn potholes in the streets, go out and try to actually fill them on their own, and then get prosecuted for it? You seen those stories? Because that happens.
I've seen that. But the thing about it is too.
Should cops be arresting those folks?
What you got to realize is you were talking about also that if somebody attacks you and rapes you or something, just shoot them. There's a lot of states that has laws that you cannot carry a gun.
Yeah, don't live in those states. Bad plan.
Chicago, you can't.
Don't live there. Bad plan.
Okay. And
you care about rights.
California doesn't have any.
Yep.
I mean, you're
California is the 49th least free, or 49th most free, or no, least free state. So yeah, I don't want to set foot in those places generally if I can avoid it.
But I mean, I carry a gun all the time because I used to be a deputy sheriff and I know what's going on. But I do not just talk to people and just pull them over just for the hell of it.
Well, that's good. So let's get back to, because it sounded like you said in the beginning you didn't want to legalize prostitution. Then you gave us a good reason why we should legalize prostitution, which is to say that there's.
Yes, they did.
Right. Well, so that's what we propose here.
Prostitution straight up means that they can go out there, they can screw anybody they want to, and then turn around.
I got news for you, buddy. They can go out there and screw anyone they want to anytime. It's just sometimes there's a cop on the other side of the wall in the hotel room.
It's legal to have sex. It's legal to make money. It's not legal to make money having sex in 49 out of 50 states.
Except for porn.
Yeah, right. You can take pictures of it and it's fine. But if you don't take pictures, then it's prostitution.
And that's two out of the 50 states.
Right. This is just a bunch of laws we don't need.
Ron, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate
it. But we need them to protect the people from diseases.
This is the most circular thing. Thank you for the call, Ron. I just can't even fathom what you're saying. You're saying you need the police to arrest people in prostitution to protect them from diseases, and then in the next breath, you literally talked about how the prostitutes are tested in Nevada where it's legal. So that solves the problem of the worry about disease when you test people in a legal marketplace where there's open competition and people aren't, screwing in the black market. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Would you like to hang out with Penn Jillette? He's keynoting Freedom Fest this year. I, for one, am thrilled. Freedom Fest is the largest liberty-oriented gathering in the world. They take a Big Ten approach with libertarians, conservatives, liberals, anarchists, and just open-minded people mingling together to hear real debates, share real solutions, and converse freely. This year's theme is the Wild West, a time of liberty and opportunity, or a time of anarchy and violence. Maybe both. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and get your tickets now. freedomfest.com/FTL. Not convinced yet? Hey, I understand. It's a high-end event, even with coupon code FTLEB. Sure, you're likely to receive investment advice that'll make that sum seem paltry, but I have something special for you. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and you'll get the 5 best speeches from last year for free. Call it a test drive. Do yourself a favor and go to freedomfest.com/FTL. freedomfest.com/FTL. Use coupon code FTLEB for a discount.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live. We're launching into the third hour here. Got plenty of time for you if you want to join us on this live Saturday edition with you tonight. It's Ian.
And Mark.
Talking about a disturbing trend. And now how recent it is, I'm not clear. But it is being reported on relatively recently with a young gentleman named Brian McCormick, who knew what to do when the ICE officers pulled him over with fake warrants in hand. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. It's a fake warrant, right? Like, they didn't fake a judge's signature. They just put the word warrant on the top of a document that's not a warrant because it doesn't have a judge's signature on it. And then they go off and they try to insist, because they're standing there with guns and they're intimidating and they're trained to be intimidating.
Well, they're also cloaked in a shroud of legitimacy, right?
Well, right. That's the point. Yeah, they've got the law and the gun and, and intimidation, and they're trained for this. So this guy...
It's the old problem, who will watch the watchman? When... government is constantly going to attempt to push past its bounds. And in this case, a government agency, a national government agency, has created documents that it calls warrants that do not fit the legal definition of a warrant. I don't know what else to call them but fake documents either. Mm-hmm. And anybody who is involved in generating these should go to prison. That's the end of the story.
But it's not illegal for them to lie.
We've had everybody calling in tonight saying, oh, the law enforcement officers wouldn't do this or that. Well, they'll generate fake documents. We have evidence right here.
I'll tell you what, if I went to...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want. I want you to call in right now at 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE. And tell me that the law enforcement officers who work for the federal government who generated fake, unconstitutional documents should not go to prison, that they shouldn't be separated from their families. Well, because if you want to put people in prison to send a message, by God, you should send the message that the highest law in the land should be adhered to. Now, I know we don't actually believe that crap in America anymore. I know that stuff went out the door decades ago. But at least we should admit it to ourselves. We don't care about the Constitution. Nobody's calling in here who's outraged that the government is breaking its own laws.
Yeah,
this isn't an isolated incident. No. This isn't one officer. This is an agency-wide thing. Right. And what do we have people doing, calling in? They're like, why are you talking bad about the police? Guys, why do you do this? Why don't you let people talk? It's because when they talk, nonsense comes out of their face hole.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts, although I will point this out about the fake warrants thing. They're not going to prison, Mark. They're not.
No,
because they're in charge.
Going to get a pension and you're going to pay for it.
But if you make up your own, open up, Microsoft Word or LibreOffice.
If you kited a check, if you wrote a fake check, they can put you in prison.
Yeah, if you write up a fake warrant and you show up at somebody's house and, a uniform, and you tell them, I got a warrant signed by a judge right here, you're going to get charged with multiple felonies.
Oh, yeah, it's a big problem to pretend to be a cop.
Yeah, but when they do it, It's totally fine. Let's go to your calls. We got Mike. He's on the line listening to WZTK FM in Alpena, Michigan. Go ahead, Mike.
I agree completely with you guys. Those cops, those ICE agents should be arrested and tried.
All right.
There is one way to shrink the government real quick.
What's that?
All the president has to do is say, all you guys in the government are fired.
He could do that.
To do that. He has the power to do that.
See, I would think he'd only have the power over the executive branch.
Well, most people who work in the government work for the executive branch. They're very. Branch. What's that, sir?
Most of them do work for the executive branch.
Yeah.
Then the lawsuits will start.
He would be impeached within 45 minutes.
Yeah, probably something bad would certainly happen.
Obstruction of justice charges instantly because you fired the whole entire FBI.
Well, I mean, Trump could stop the spending if he wanted to stop the spending and make some efforts to do that. He doesn't want to do that either.
Yeah.
I mean, It's not like his hands are tied. Yes, he doesn't have to go as far as what you've said. He could at least turn this around. But I'm looking at the public debt of the United States from 1990 to 2018 in billions of dollars, and I don't see a difference between the spending under Trump and the spending under Obama.
No, it hasn't gone up or anything. It's just stayed the same.
Yep.
Mike, anything else you want to share tonight?
Oh, you want to know what a post road is?
Yeah.
What's
a road that's used for postal service.
Only?
No.
Only.
Really? Only? I thought it included any road that's used for postal service.
It's any road, because almost every road is used for postal service anymore.
So, yeah, any road.
Well, so
the government's
in
charge of that, and that's about it.
But that I don't understand. So the local government in my town pays for my local road on which my home is, and that on that road, by God, they're delivering mail. So that's.
But they get grants from the government to rebuild that road.
Okay.
From the federal government.
All right.
Mike, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number 855-450-FREE. Let's talk to Gary.
They should pull that out of the Constitution. They don't need that crap.
Gary, you're in Washington, listening to KITZ up in the Tacoma area. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to call
and
talk to you. There's just one of me, two of you, so kind of go easy on me. I'm an old guy.
It's okay.
The libertarians I've talked to over the years, most of them seem to be very idealistic.
Yes.
And they complain about all this regulation, they complain about all these laws, but really to get to the crux of it, the only reason we have so many laws and regulations is because we've backed away from morality in this country. Took God out of the schools, so when people start breaking laws and stepping on other people's rights, then we have to make laws to regulate them. The more laws they make, the more liberty I take away from you when I make a lot of laws. And I don't have to take liberty away from you. I just have to give preferences to someone else, which takes the liberty away from you.
Okay,
So, dictatorship.
I think you're wrong.
One thing a big government has to get control of is the education system and the gun. That's the two first things. Of course, they have to do the monetary and all that.
Yeah, the monetary is first.
They've got a control of the education. They've had it since Maslow, and they're getting to the guns, as you know.
So then you would agree with us. So then you would agree with us, Gary, that the government shouldn't be involved in education at all.
Well, it's not in the Constitution.
Right. Okay. So we agree with you there.
Right. Well, when you say take prayer out of the school, so Gary,
in the cultural war we're in, those are the little ball bearing factories. When you were fighting World War II, we would have never won that if we were just knocking out battleships and bombers. We had to go and bomb the manufacturing plants. Well, who owns all of the little manufacturing plants in the Cultural War, i.e. the schools, but the liberals in education? Now, the whole thing is a mess. You guys are complaining about a lot of valid things, but we're in a garbage pit already, and you're trying to sort out the can. We have to clean up the mess from the root of it, and that is establish a morality that's based on a objective morals through Christianity and the Bible.
Establish Christian morals.
Where else are you going to get it? You're going to get it out of the air.
We have a moral standard.
Jiminy Cricket, where are you going to get it?
We have a moral standard. That standard is called the non-aggression principle. It says that you may not initiate force in order to achieve social or political goals.
Why?
Why what?
Why not? Who says that? You say it? Who says that?
Good people who treat each other fairly.
Oh, I see.
Who's a good people? I'm a good people.
People who don't use violence, aggressive violence.
Because for my family, what's wrong morally with that then? If it's just a subjective justification, like you're saying, what's wrong with that? You've got to have a foundational premise.
Well, what's the foundation? If you say it's the Bible, then it's just crap that was written down by people.
Yep, that's what he said.
The Bible is just stuff that was written down by people.
It was written by God.
Can you prove that?
Can you not prove it?
Oh, thanks for the call.
Odin wrote the non-aggression principle. Vishnu dances around my head. I'm no atheist, but you can't prove the Bible is written by God. If you believe it, that's great.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like Freedom, Free Talk Live. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. Dial in toll-free to bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like Freedom, 855-450-3733. Coming up at June 13th through the 18th. It's Forkfest 2019 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. It really is just an absolutely splendid location to visit if you're just on your own, just hanging out in a campground. But it's even better when you're surrounded by like-minded voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists, and libertarians. That's pretty much who you're going to find on the campground at Forkfest. Go to forkfest.party to learn more about the event. It is decentralized. It's a libertarian camping festival where there's nobody who's in charge except for every individual who's there, meaning that you're in charge of your own experience. You're in charge of your own campsite. So if you want to put something together for people to do it. You want to, bring a poker table and have some gambling, go right ahead. If you want to maybe put on a play, I don't know, have yourself a speakers series, whatever it is, put some musical acts on, throw a party, whatever you want to do, you should do that at Forkfest. That's kind of the idea. Nobody's really telling anybody what to do. Forkfest.party. Go there if you want to learn more. There's also a Forkfest forum and the Forkfest Telegram chat room over at forkfest.party. We'll see you there. We're going to be broadcasting from the event because that's the thing we do, June 13th through the 18th.
Do whatever you want so long as it abides by the arbitrary ancient text that I like the best.
The non-aggression principle?
No, the ancient text that I like the best.
Oh, the Bible. Oh, that's right.
It could be the Bible. It could be the Book of the Dead.
You're referencing the last caller.
The Torah. It could be what do the Muslims got? They got something. I can't remember what it's called. The Quran.
The Quran. Yeah.
I don't care. Whatever it is. Ramblings of.
I like the Tao Te Ching. That's not much of a rambling document. That's pretty wise. It's a pretty good document. Then there's wisdom in a lot of these religious books. It's just
the Tao Te Ching isn't a religious document so much as a prescription on how to live.
Okay.
Right? Like there's no God there talked about.
Well, it depends on your interpretation. I mean, it certainly talks about the source of all things. So, yeah.
Whatever that is.
That to me is God. But anyway.
Me too.
So, you're referencing our last caller, and I do want to get back into to more calls and thoughts from you. But he did say something that sounded pretty creepy. He said he wanted to establish Christian morals. And to me, that sounds like a theocracy. That sounds like you want to take your moral set and create laws to force people into your belief system. And I just don't think that's what Jesus would do. It just doesn't seem like something that, the Prince of Peace, somebody who purportedly loves other people, would try to force them to do something against their own will.
So if you get two lawyers into a room, they can argue about what a law means. And a law was written pretty clearly and specifically. If you get two preachers in a room, they can argue about what the Bible says.
Sure.
And that document wasn't intended, to best I can tell, to be clear. to be precise. It was intended, from what I can tell, this was just people writing about what their vision of God was at the time that they were experiencing it. And I think that's beautiful, important, relevant.
Sure.
All of those things.
Until you try to force it on somebody.
Until somebody decides that their interpretation of the Bible is that it's important that I abide by their interpretation.
Right.
That's when I got a problem.
Because everybody's interpretation is different. If you look at all the schisms between various different religions that had started as one and now are many, right? Because they disagreed on their interpretation of those texts.
I would say that the Bible and the Hebrew scriptures are probably the most important, most relevant, and most transformative ancient texts that exist on the planet, in so much as lots and lots and lots of people believe this stuff.
Yeah, but you're excluding Asia. I mean, there's a whole lot of...
I've looked at the numbers. When you see that Islam springs from these texts of which I'm speaking, then you see a very large number of people.
Let's go to your calls, your thoughts. We've got Adrian on the line here listening to WIBC in Indianapolis. Go ahead, Adrian.
Hi, I don't think that those guys should be arrested.
Which guys?
I think that they should have their citizenship stripped and given to the people that they're going after, and they should be deported to Mexico. And if they can,
I don't know what you did.
Then we'll forgive them.
Okay, I don't know. You kind of
officers who are generating documents.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead and deport them.
Okay, so you're saying, just to be clear, because you were a little muffled during some of that, you're saying the officers from ICE who are manufacturing fake warrants, with approval, by the way, from... I'm going to put you on hold for just a second. There's too much noise. So with approval from their superiors, this isn't like a few rogue officers.
Rogue agents.
Right? This is a form with the ICE agency, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, warrant for arrest of alien, signed by so-called authorized immigration officer. And this is, Form I-200, revised in September of 2016. So it's been around for at least a few years. And so I want to bring you back here, Adrian. Just to be clear, you're saying the officers who are issuing this fake warrant should be punished? They should be arrested and deported?
No, I'm saying they should not be arrested. I'm being sarcastic.
He wants them deported.
I appreciate what you guys are saying.
What do you actually believe?
Look, I'm way ahead of you guys on being disturbed about what's happening to our country.
Okay.
I love your show. I appreciate most of what you're saying. I would like to chime in on that last bit where it started to get philosophical and religious, and invite you guys to maybe increase your knowledge base and study these matters a little bit more.
Mark, haven't you read the Bible multiple times?
I'm a Christian, and the last guy who spoke was a little over the top. He didn't quite get to say what he wanted to say in an eloquent way. He was not saying we should force people to adopt Christian standards and law, and I'm not saying that either, and I don't believe that Jesus said that. He said, give unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar.
What does established Christian morals mean? I mean, if that's what he said.
You know what it really means? As a Christian, I would like to go ahead and give my attempt to represent Christians and say that when we as Christians stand up and properly represent Jesus Christ and show the world the kind of love that we're capable of through him, then the world will be reminded that Jesus is the moral measuring stick of the world. There is no higher moral standard than what
that's fine with me. If you can show love to people and set the example for loving
war.
folks.
He said it. He started to say it right though. It's a culture war, and we're losing it. The ideas of truth
How do you win it?
And good and evil and morality. If you want to say that I can't prove that the Bible should be the moral standard of the world, well, no one else has proven that any other standard should be put above all the other standards. We have how many thousands of moral standards being put out every day by the minute? You just turn on YouTube, just turn on your computer. We got millions of standards. Which one? Of course, that's the question.
Well,
but nobody, science and philosophy have come up empty.
Well, I don't know. I think philosophy has come up with something. Like philosophy.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for that.
Philosophy's had an opportunity to go past whatever has draw from ancient texts, including the Bible, including the Torah, including the Quran, and all this stuff, and then add to it and make it more succinct. So I would say yes, the non-aggression principle, as it is laid out by libertarians out there, which is to say that you do not initiate force against people. That means if force is initiated against you, you may respond with it, but you not initiate force against people, and that's all there is to it. If you don't use force, you're fine.
Aggressive force.
Well,
Aggressive.
What's the difference?
Well, there's defensive force where you can use force.
You don't initiate force.
Yeah.
You're fine. That's it.
More coming up. Thanks, Adrian, for the call. 855-450 free. We got time for you if you join us now. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
All right, it's Free Talk Live. You can dial in here, toll-free number 855-450-FREE. We are live, as we always are. All 7 nights a week we do this thing, and you can join us. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Mark.
Don't forget, we've got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. Jump into one of those. You'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. By the way, thank you to R.J. Mort, or Urge Mort. Anyway, thanks to R.J. Mort.
I think I like R.J. Mort.
Yeah. For being a Free Talk Live Gold Amplifier. That means he's sending us $10 a month through the AMP program over at amp.freetalklive.com to help us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, to help us get on more radio stations around the country, bring new internet listeners on board, expose new people to the ideas of freedom, because, well, there's nobody else doing this. I mean, I wish there were other people in broadcast radio doing what we're doing, but we're the only ones. We're the only ones with a principled message of liberty across every issue, every single time. So if that's valuable to you to hear that getting into more markets, we got over 190 stations today. We could have 300. We could have more than that. It's possible. I think the biggest shows out there in the world or in the country have like 400 to 500 stations.
Rush has 6.
He had 6. I don't think he's got it now.
Okay.
I don't think so, because he's been losing some stations, some biggies over time. Anyway, go to amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. Every time one of these talk shows drops off the air, it's an opportunity for Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's like a little rat that eats the dinosaur eggs and talk radio.
Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. Again, it's amp.freetalklive.com. And yes, you will get cool perks. And again, thanks to R.J. Mort for doing that. We got Don on the line listening to WIBC-FM in Indianapolis. Go ahead, Don.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, Don, good. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Well, I was passing through, and I'm listening to the station here. That's actually a pretty good topic. I think this immigration that you got going on here, that you're talking about, I think the people are just confused because they really don't understand what it is. They don't know what real illegal immigration is.
What is?
You understand what I'm saying?
What do you mean? What is real illegal immigration?
I'm one of those guys. I don't know. We hear it on TV. Politicians are screaming back and forth. They can't come to any positive solution.
Well, I can tell you,
we can vote for presidents, and we vote because they say immigration. You put them in there, but nothing gets done.
Nothing changes. Look, I can tell you what real illegal immigrants look like. I've met them. The ones I've met have been good people. They've been hardworking. They've been good folks who want to make a better life for themselves. I mean, is that what you mean by real illegal immigration? Because I'm sure there's some people that are welfare hounds, but those people are also born here as well.
Well, I can't specify if they're on welfare. I mean, how would I know that?
Yeah, you would have to ask.
That would have to be the state to divulge those numbers, and they're not going to divulge it.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to see the welfare state get any bigger, but I also don't want to see the police state get any bigger. So I'd like to see all of those things rolled back. How about you?
I agree.
Excellent.
I agree. The same thing. Now let's go back. We got to go back to this New York deal where the
with the fake warrant.
With the warrant.
Yeah.
I don't know what New York does, but I'm from Wisconsin. And I know in Wisconsin that it is not illegal for an officer to lie.
That's right.
To somebody that they've stopped. It is not illegal.
That's right.
They can lie. They can lie. As soon as you lie, Now you're obstructing. That's
Right.
a misdemeanor.
That's why that's one of the reasons why it's always best in almost every circumstance, and this is what most attorneys will tell you, although I'm not an attorney, is that stay quiet, because if you tell a lie, you get into even worse trouble, especially if you're talking about like a federal agent, because then it's definitely a crime to lie to the police. In other cases, it can just get you in deeper and potential charges of other things.
They say you have the right to remain silent.
You
Shut
do.
your mouth.
Yep. Martha Stewart.
Give them the driver's license. Shut your mouth.
Yeah, Martha Stewart didn't go to jail for doing anything wrong. She went to jail for supposedly lying to a federal officer.
I made that claim recently, and I actually looked it up, and that's not true.
Oh, well, really?
That's what we've been saying for years on Free Talk Live, and truly because we believed that was the case. But if you look up Martha Stewart on like Wikipedia or whatever, and find the article about that, it's she went to jail for a few different things.
Conspiracy, obstruction.
Yeah. Anyway, Don, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate hearing from you. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Let's go to Levi, listening in New Hampshire, or watching us, rather, on YouTube. Go ahead, Levi.
LRN.FM.
And toll-free number 855-450-FREE. As we continue, let's go to Scott, listening in Indianapolis to WIBC. Hello, Scott.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, we're great. Go ahead with your thoughts. What's on your mind?
Well, I want to make a comment about the police. The lady that called, I'm assuming she was a police officer. Back in the early days of my life, in my 20s, I used to get pulled over a lot. And I've been pulled over once or twice in the last few years. And I have met good police officers, and I've met real jerks.
Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah, you have professionals, and then you have those that want to talk to you as if you're a common criminal and get cocky with you.
Yep.
And that's where your freedom of speech goes out the window at that point, because you can't do the same to them without getting arrested.
Sure.
And that is wrong. And these police that are doing illegal things, whether it's the FBI, CIA, or local police, they break the law, they should go to prison just like anybody else.
No doubt. Man, you're saying what I love to hear, but that means we really have much to say to you. Anything else you want to share, Scott?
Right. See, this is the reality, right, Scott? So, Scott, the people call in and say, you don't let us talk. Well, you're not going to get to talk because we agree with everything you say. Yep, you're right. Goodbye.
Couldn't have said it any better.
The people we disagree with, they stay on for 2 segments, and then they're like, how come you don't listen?
Yeah. I do have a related story.
Nobody wants to listen.
Scott,
freedom of speech is only freedom of speech if you want to hear what I got to say. Is the way the liberals treat us.
Scott, I do have a related story about the police. You can't say what you want to the police. I've been sitting on this one for a few weeks, and it's yet another in a long line of these stories. This from March of this year, so it's not an old one. AP reporting, when it comes to the middle finger, police might need a thicker skin. A federal appeals court says a Michigan woman's constitutional rights were violated when she was handed a speeding ticket after giving the finger to a suburban Detroit officer in 2017. The decision means a lawsuit by Ms. Deborah Cruz Gullis can proceed. In a 3-0 decision, the court said Taylor officer Matthew Menard, quote, should have known better, unquote, even if the driver was rude. Menard stopped Cruz Gullis and wrote her a ticket for a lesser violation, but when that stop was over, Cruz Gullis raised her middle finger. Menard then pulled her over again and changed the ticket to a more serious speeding offense. She then sued, saying her free speech rights and her rights against unreasonable search and seizure were violated, and the court says it looks like that the court has agreed, at least at this point in the case. And this is yet another in a series of these unending cases where somebody says F you or flips the bird at a cop and gets arrested for it. And that's why the court says the officer should have known better, because there's been a zillion of these cases over the years. This is one of the most settled issues in American law that I think we've seen. We've been on the air since 2002, Mark. How many times have we reported on this same story?
This keeps happening. I can't say that I'm shocked. I mean, police officers are human beings, and human beings are going to be upset when you flip them the bird.
But when you're a professional, you're supposed to rise above that.
I would say, so my opinion on this is less, I'm not terribly sympathetic to Miss Gillard here. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just not very sympathetic, okay? What I do have a problem with is police officers that use foul language in the course of their duties, period. When they,
See
get
all
on the
the time.
ground, MFer. Look, gentlemen, we pay you reasonably well, and we do not pay you to cuss at customers. Stop it.
They're not treating you like a customer. That would be a whole different viewpoint if you were actually their customer, because then you could take your business elsewhere.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, no, thanks, I'll pass on your services. I don't really want to support what you're doing.
I don't.
No, you can't.
I'm not excited about people flipping cops off. I don't think it's a good way to go.
Thanks for your call, Scott, but it's freedom of speech, and in my opinion, you got to stand up for free speech if you want to keep it. More coming up. It is Free Talk Live. We're here with just a few moments in this episode remaining, but we got plenty more in the future because we're here 7 days a week. So if you don't get in tonight, don't worry. You can always call tomorrow.
Please do.
Yeah, 7 to 10 at night Eastern Time.
If you do get in tonight, please call tomorrow.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's even easier, of course, on our other nights. Our Saturday show is our biggest show of the week. We have more stations carrying us live in bigger places than any other time of the week. So it's a little harder to get in tonight than it is other nights of the week. Sometimes, if it's weeknights, man, sometimes it's just wide open. Just call right in. We'll get you right on the air. No problem. I think a lot of people figure, it's a national show. We can't get through. Well, actually, it's really easy to get through. I think a lot of the shows just don't want to hear from you, honestly. The people like Limbaugh and Glenn Beck or whatever, I don't think they want to take calls most of the time. So they don't.
Right. The complaints that people don't get to say what they want to say on Free Talk Live, well, consider you haven't gotten on any other nationally syndicated shows, in all likelihood, right? Because Free Talk Live makes it easy to get on. We've taken more calls tonight than most shows take in a week.
Maybe. Let's go to your calls, more of them, as we go to James in Indianapolis, listening to WIBC-FM. Hello, James.
Hi.
Hey, you're on the air.
Guys, have a comment about immigration.
Yeah.
In the industry that I've been in and I worked around, unfortunately, a lot of immigrants, and I don't know if they're illegal or not. But I will say that the small percentage of immigrants that are doing the bad things are making a bad name for the other ones.
Sure.
Most people that come to this country, they just want to work. They want to work. They want to send money home. They work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs to make money.
What was the industry? Well. You don't have to say what company, but what industry was it?
I'm a restaurant manager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a surprise.
How would you comment on generally the work ethic of immigrants versus native-borns?
It's amazing. These
like a big difference.
Will do anything that you ask them to do.
It's a big difference then, is what you're saying in the good way.
100% big difference.
Yeah, and that's
what
really
I worry about. If I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
go ahead. All I'm trying to say is I think Americans are scared in large part about immigrants because the immigrants will work hard and they don't want to.
That's true. Because I think a lot of immigrants do the jobs that some Americans don't want to do.
You're damn right.
They don't want to clean buildings, and they don't want to scrub.
Oh yeah, thank you for not saying that. I appreciate it.
But sometimes it gets on the walls.
It does. I don't understand how, but it does.
They don't want to get dirty and nasty and do all the undesirable jobs that a lot of Americans don't want to roll their sleeves up and do. And I think that, I think sometimes we need that. We need that help in our country to be able to move along. Because if not, the work's not going to get done.
Yep, it's true.
I hate to say that, but that's the truth.
We gotta bring it back to the story again, but I think it's worth pointing out. Years ago, I forget how many now, probably at least several, if not close to 10. It feels like it's been a while. There was like a crackdown on immigration in, I think it was Georgia. And the immigrants there that were farm workers, they're slaving away out in the fields for pennies per bushel or whatever it is that they're doing. And I mean, slaving is not the right word, but they're working hard. I mean, they're working hard for 16-hour days. It's a lot of work. Anyway, getting paid by the pick, basically. You pick a watermelon, you get paid for that watermelon. So they were run out, basically, by this crackdown on immigration. And so the idea was, all right, well, here's all these jobs. Americans, come on in. Get these great farm jobs. They're here for you. Come on in.
So food began to rot on the vine. Well, what happened? We decided
most of that food rotted.
Right. They decided, let's bring in convicts. We'll bring in people who are in prison, whom we can throw in confinement if they don't do the job. We can throw them in the hole in solitary. And those guys, at some point, within the first week, they're like, we'd rather go to confinement. Americans who are in prison wouldn't do this work. And then, then we complain about immigrants taking Americans' jobs. Americans won't do these jobs.
It's true. James, thanks for your call tonight. Anything else you want to share with us?
Welcome. No, love the show.
Great call. Thanks for making it. There you go. Somebody who's actually out there working with immigrants regularly. He's got something to say.
People who don't want immigrants should stop eating.
Go pick your own corn.
Right. Grow your own.
Let's continue here with more of your calls and thoughts. We go to Free Market Penguin. He is on our Discord on-air call-in line rooms. Go ahead, Free Market Penguin.
Hey, greetings, ministers. Wanted to talk about the immigration issue. First of all, that guy at the stop with the I don't know if he did or didn't have the immigrants with him in the car when there's
he did have immigrants with him, according to the CNN article.
Okay, yeah, when those government agents showed up and he stood his ground and knew his rights, and not somebody in a not typically the context where you see somebody kind of talk about the rights in the Constitution and this and that. And I gotta say that guy's a hero though, just for what he does and how he risks himself, to help these undocumented people out. Guy's really a hero.
He said, by the way, since you brought it back up, I'm glad we had an excuse to talk about the actual story we started out the show with, just to finish up some of the details. McCormick, who's the person who stood up to these ICE agents trying to present him with a fake warrant, says the officers eventually left without making any arrests after an attorney, local elected officials, and other supporters gathered at the scene. Quote, at the end of the day, they had to leave because they had no authority to do anything, he told CNN. U.S. ICE says that officers left the scene that day because someone interfered with their enforcement efforts. Quote, during an attempted targeted enforcement action March 5th in which ICE deportation officers specifically sought two unlawfully present foreign nationals, an individual interfered with the enforcement action, causing officers to instead depart the scene to avoid further disruption. Huh?
Yeah, fat chance.
Right.
If they were in the right, they would have called for backup. They would not have departed the scene.
Right. When do police officers and law enforcement officers, I should be using that term, when do law enforcement officers depart the scene because
someone interfered?
They're causing a disruption.
That man over there with the camera, he's interfering. We're going to go away now. Usually they'll come up and get in your face,
right?
If they don't like the fact that you're there
your butt to jail.
Interfering. They got a charge for that. It's called interfering in the police investigation, if they can actually hit you with that. But using a video camera and standing up for your rights isn't interfering, just so you know.
Right. This ICE agent could have called local law enforcement. Local law enforcement could have come and would have come and certainly enforced the law. In all probability, this ICE agent did not want a local law enforcement officer presented with this crappy fake warrant, unconstitutional warrant that he had, because he knew what he was trying to proffer as law was in fact illegal.
Here's more of the BS press release from ICE. Quote, individuals who intervene in or seek to impede ICE officers while they are carrying out their mission recklessly endanger not only the law enforcement personnel, but also the individuals targeted for arrest and potentially innocent bystanders. Those who engage in such actions expose themselves to potential criminal violations and run the risk of harming the very people they purport to support. So they're actually claiming that by standing up for somebody's rights and saying that's a fake warrant, recording it on video, that he somehow has put his friends in danger.
Yeah, this is slightly better than when in that scene in Training Day where I forgot the character's name, but Denzel's character shows the lady the Chinese takeout menu as the warrant as they go and look for her cash.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but what I also wanted to call about was like I've known lots of immigrants. I know lots of immigrants. Related immigrants. I've interacted with countless immigrants in my time, and I mean, there's no way you can say that people come to this country for the benefits, for the welfare. Yes, they exist, and that's not the fault of the immigrants, because if the immigrants want to work two or three jobs, whatever it takes to make it, and they do. And I mean, you cannot fault them for a system existing.
Right.
And
I say it over and over again. You can't put out a bowl of cat food every morning and then complain that stray cats, raccoons, and possums come to your door for food.
Just put a fence around the bowl and have a checkpoint to make sure the good kitties.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Stop putting the bowl out, you lunatics! Right? I mean, America putting out this bowl of free food and then complaining that some people come and take the free food. It's outrageous.
Well, but I mean, if you ask anybody that comes to the U.S., they don't say they're coming to get free stuff.
No.
Nobody ever does. And I mean, I don't believe they're lying or concealing the fact. They don't. They want to work and have a better chance at making a living in better circumstances than people have in their situations.
That's why we should get everybody the opportunity to come and give them no benefits, and the ones that don't want benefits will not come, and the ones that do want benefits won't come. The ones that don't want benefits, they will come. They'll work hard.
How about we just get rid of the whole benefits welfare system entirely?
I'm fine with that, but I don't know if Americans are quite ready for that.
And cut all government pensions as well while we're at it. Let's do that.
I'd like to make it obsolete.
Hey, thanks for the call, Free Market Penguin. I appreciate it. Don't forget, y'all can check us out on our Twitch channel over at twitch.lrn.fm. That's right. We do video streaming, too, during our live shows over at twitch.lrn.fm. Be sure you hit the follow button. You might get some email updates if you opt into those. I think they're by default. I'm not sure. Anyway, check it out. twitch.lrn.fm. We'll see you tomorrow night. Online in the meantime, freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.